What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Weapon Collective. My name's Jeff, and once again, we're down in the Gat Cave. And you might notice that my voice sounds a little raspy, maybe a little nasally. I'm just getting over a cold, so please bear with me. I have been a bum for the last couple days, just trying to recuperate before I head off to SHOT Show tomorrow. And on that note, stay tuned because I'm going to be in SHOT Show all week getting content. So we'll be releasing a whole bunch of stuff from SHOT Show, hopefully seeing a lot of cool new stuff and bringing it to you guys. So as I was being a bum on the couch the last couple days, I was responding to comments, watching the subscriber numbers, and just being totally amazed at the growth of the channel recently. So just hit 15,000, went from 10 to 15 like that. You guys are awesome. It is so appreciated, but it made me start thinking, how in the hell did I go from being a guy that had a couple guns and knew nothing about them to being here on YouTube with you guys? It's absolutely insane, and I thought I'd just share that story with you. So today, more personal story about how I got from that guy to this guy, just being an absolute gun nut, kind of take you on that journey that I went on and show you some very pivotal guns along the way. Oddly enough, they're totally random guns, definitely not like the coolest ones in the collection, but they were very significant at the time. And these are the guns that led me to end up with all these other guns. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, how did I end up here? That's a good question, because it wasn't all that long ago that I had a few guns, didn't know much about them, and here we are. Let's go back to probably 2018, because up until that point, I was living in Hawaii, moved back to Utah from Hawaii in 2018, and we all know Hawaii is not a gun-friendly state, and I had a couple Glocks, maybe a 1911 at the time, but that was about it. And always into guns, always loved guns, just didn't know that much about them. And I'd shoot every once in a while, shoot growing up, you know, had a shotgun for my 12th birthday that I really liked. And once in a while shoot with my dad or my brother, go out with friends and just randomly shoot with no intention, no purpose behind it. And still, the main point is just not knowing anything about guns. So 2018 rolls around, moved back to Utah, and I think I could thank my wife for ending up on the YouTube channel, because I've shown this on the channel before, but the very first gun she gave me as a gift was this Sig Sauer P226, or the Mark 25. And she gave me this, and I was absolutely stoked. This thing was so cool at the time, still is, but at the time, getting a gun, this was the first gun I ever got that had a red dot on it. And this isn't the configuration that I received it in. Had a different slide with a different optic. It came with the color match slide, and then it had a Delta Point Pro. And it was only maybe in the last 6 months that I did end up swapping that slide out to get a different footprint, to put this Sig Sauer Romeo X on there. I am not a big Delta Point Pro fan, and preferred that, and so I swapped it out. But nonetheless, this is the gun she gave me, and I still didn't even know what I didn't know. I'd go out and shoot it, never even zeroed the red dot, and wondered why I couldn't hit anything. But still, I had fun, I loved it, but no intention, no purpose, and knew very little. But I thought this was such a cool firearm. I would just play with it, and if you guys are like me, I still do that today. I get a new gun and just obsess over every little detail. Can't stop handling it and just doing everything with it. I love it. This is the gun that kind of planted the seed for this collection that I have today. And I would trace everything back to this. So this gun is very special to me and has a lot of meaning for me. And so once again, I have a very cool wife. She gave me this gun, and it lit the fuse, I should say. I had a safe with a few pistols in it, couple Glocks. I'd always had a couple Glocks here and there, come and go. Glock 17, Glock 19. I had a Browning 20 gauge shotgun. I had a 12 gauge. I had deer rifle, a 7mm, and then for Christmas, I got another gift from my wife, which was my first AR. And that was this one. This is a Daniel Defense DDM4 V9 LW. That LW is for lightweight. And once again, this is not in the configuration that I received it in. Had a LPVO and it was heavy. So I figured it's got the LW for lightweight, and anybody that's watched my channel knows I much prefer the shorter configuration AR-15s. This is a 16-inch barrel, so it's long, it's got a quad rail, and I just figured I would set it up to be a more of a agile, lightweight AR. So let's go through it. Out front, I have the Erector 9 from Q. It is a 9mm can, but it works on this. And I selected this because it is lightweight and I can configure the length that I would like. And then the light, I have a mod light PLH V2 18350 that I'm operating with the Surefire SR07 pressure pad. I have a BCM vertical foregrip. And then in the back right here, I've got an Aimpoint Acro P2 in the gray I've kind of tried to keep grayscale going with this. So gray Acro on this gray castle mount. And these castle mounts, they just recently popped up everywhere. They're a pretty cool little mount. I like these. And if you've watched my channel, you know I'm a big fan of the bad lever. Other than that, everything else is stock. Just Daniel Defense furniture. And this gun is also very special to me. This thing was my first AR. I'd shot a couple ARs with my brother. My brother's a big gun guy too. He has an awesome gun collection, and he had a bunch of ARs that I had shot previously, but still having my own was a big deal. Now I was just totally pumped and wanting to learn more about guns, get more guns. And what did I do? Well, at that point, I started getting enough motivation to start looking, reading, going to gun shops, talking to people, and just kind of dipping my toe in the gun world. My first purchase was another pistol, and I don't know why it looked cool, but my first pistol purchase that I made was this Walther Q5 Match SF, SF being steel frame, and the weight of this gun, everything. I thought this was the coolest gun in the world at the time. It is still a nice gun, although I haven't shot this in a very long time. But it is a cool gun and has a fantastic trigger for being a striker-fired pistol. I think Walther has some of the better striker-fired triggers out there, out of the box. And this was my first Trijicon RMR. So very excited about this gun. And like I said, it's not gonna be the most amazing guns in my gun collection in this video. These are just the significant at the time guns that left a mark on my memory. Because there's no way I remember every gun that I bought in order. There was just moments in time where I remember this gun left a mark. And this was one of them. Got it, shot it, but still didn't know much and was starting to watch YouTube videos. I'd go to a gun shop. I was listening to everything, trying to soak up as much information as I could. And then it came to the point that I said, I need to get my concealed weapons permit. And this all coincided with timing of world events. So this was right at the beginning of 2020, and we all know the world went nuts in 2020. I've been given these guns as gifts, piquing my interest, started shooting a little more, definitely getting more interested, and then you have world events coming together. And everything kind of hit at the same time. My gun interest and everything else that was going on in 2020. Riots, presidential election, COVID insanity. The world was just, supply chain stopped. Everything seemed nuts. And me being a husband, a dad, I was like, I need to be prepared. I need to be efficient and effective. And I'm also just interested as hell in all this stuff. So it was this kind of culmination of things occurring simultaneously that really lit the fuse and prompted me to find a pistol course. And lo and behold, I did come up with, there was a gun shop right near where I live, and it's no longer there, but it was a teeny little shop. And Jimmy, if you happen to see this from Range 6, that was my very first pistol course, and I signed up for it. It was just one Saturday, just one-on-one, went into the shop, went over basic safety, gun manipulations, and then we went to the range and shot. That was really the inciting incident of like, okay, this is what I want to do. I like this. It's also important to note that Jimmy at Range 6, he was a dealer for Archon Type B. So I did end up buying an Archon Type B, and that's what I took the course with. And this is that gun. It doesn't look anything like it did when I initially bought it. It looked more like this. This is an Archon Type B, and I had the bronze slide. This has been Cerakoted, so it's a little different, but that's what it looked like, although it was this firearm. And this one's been sent to Monsoon Tactical, got the Lucky 7s, red dot put on it because it was just irons at the time, stipple job, and this crazy splatter Cerakote. So this didn't look like this, but this was the gun. This was the one that really, like, this felt so good in my hand. And very cool thing about Archon Type B is these are very low bore axis. So they don't have a Browning tilting barrel action in them either. Their mechanism is all unique to them. And it's a really good shooting little striker fired pistol. This gun, along with the pistol course that I took with Jimmy and everything else, getting those guns gifted and excited about them, and then 2020 coming in, all just lit a fire to get more involved in this realm. So I took this and started shooting more. Oh, and one thing too, I'm going to show you this. As far as the Archon Type B goes, they did make their own modifications to the gun, and they came out with this version of it, the Nocturne, and it's got this big, huge compensator on it. It's got a Holosun 507K, and just did their own thing to it. This really cool kind of stylized Nocturne with the cross sword up there, and just the Vampire Slayer gun. This thing is sweet. But that's kind of a side note, just showing you the Archon, because at that time, the Archon was a big deal to me. I was all about it. And I still dig the gun, but that was a very distinct, significant moment. That was really where I'd say my journey to become a better shooter started, and I'm somewhere in the middle right now. By no means have I reached where I want to get to. I'm a lot better than I was, but still have a lot to learn and a long way to go. And that's kind of part of the channel idea, is bringing you guys along my journey to become a better shooter, as well as other things. But the Archon and training, 2020, all these guns that I'd got up to that point all kind of culminated at once, and the world was gone nuts, and I was off to the races. So I started I was going to gun shops, like multiple gun shops every day, and really trying to, I was buying guns like crazy, just obsessed with firearms. So the next gun that I got that was just really significant and sticks out in my memory as being one of those pivotal moments and super cool was this. And this is the LWRC SMG 45. So this is a little 45 caliber SMG, and this thing was, I saw it on the wall and just had to have it. This thing is super badass. And I will say, it does have some accuracy issues. You'll shoot a group like this, and then the fourth shot will be some flyer way off, and it's got its own little issues, but nevertheless, it has a very nostalgic place in my memory, because this was my first sub gun, but also just the cool factor of it. I was so into it. And 45's fun with the suppressor. It's nice and quiet, and it is a pistol. folds up into a nice little package. Take the can off and you can throw this in a bag. And let's go through how I have this thing set up. So right now I have a Dead Air Ghost suppressor on it, and then some pop-up Magpul sights, Modlite PLH V2 18350 that I'm operating with the mod button, Aimpoint Acro P1 on an Arasaka mount, and that is really it. But the significance of this and what it did at that time in my life can't be denied. It was just such a freaking cool gun. And it is a side charger. You can swap that to the other side. It is ambi. And it was little things like that, getting it home and starting to tinker and figuring out how am I going to change this charging handle, and little things like that that I had no clue how to do. Would go to YouTube, and then I would just fall into these rabbit holes on YouTube of watching how-to videos, gun videos, and it's this just vicious circle of the more guns I bought, the more I wanted to learn, the more I worked on them, the more I had to seek out information, and that piqued my interest more and came across a new gun that I had to go out and get, and it just kept going and it hasn't stopped. So this is the LWRC SMG 45. So after that, that was one of the real standout moments, getting that SMG 45. And along the way, I'm buying Glocks and I'm buying Sigs and kind of the more generic guns, but I was super excited about them, but they just don't like jump out as this gun in particular really stuck out at me. But there was one Glock that I bought off Gunbroker that was just different enough that it really jumped out at me. And that was this Gen 3 Glock 17. Really, because up to that point, everything that I purchased had just been stock. You know, it was for the most part all black, all just OEM stuff on it. And then I saw this, and it has this really cool Zev slide on it. It's got these really cool cuts in the slide, and then even more so the frame, the two-tone frame. That was something I hadn't even seen up to that point, and was baffled by how did they do that. And at the time I wasn't aware of how you would achieve that, but just absolutely loved this gun and shot this thing like crazy. And it was a good shooting little Glock. It's still one of my favorites. A lot of it has to do with nostalgia and the emotional connection to the gun, but this was a pivotal gun along the way for sure. Along with that, I was just buying all these different guns. I remember this FN 509 Tactical was one of those guns that I thought was just cooler than cool. And not saying that it isn't, but at the time, it left a distinct spot in my memory, buying this gun. And it obviously didn't have the compensator, the mag well, but everything else I had on here came with these huge mags. I went all in on FN for in my early days. Like FN was one of the brands that I really just got everything early on in my collection, and I still really dig this gun. I did put an Apex trigger in it, and it's a much better trigger than comes stock. I really like this gun. As I started shooting more, I knew that I needed to take some more courses. I was getting the equipment to do the job, but could I do the job? So I needed to train. And so I started looking for courses, and I started with just your intro rifle 1 course. And at the time I found it, it was through Fieldcraft Survival, and they are here in Utah, but at the time they weren't. So I traveled to Colorado to take a intro to rifle course through Fieldcraft, and I took the Wilson Combat Protector. So this is a Wilson Combat AR-15, 16-inch barrel. Didn't have the suppressor on it at the time, but everything else I think is as it was. So let's go through how I have it set up right now. I've got the Huxworks Flow 556K suppressor on there. Surefire Scout Light that I'm operating with the Surefire SR07 pressure pad, vertical foregrip from BCM, and then I have an EOTech EXPS3 and a G33 3X magnifier, a Radian Raptor charging handle. And so I went out to Colorado and took this course. If you think that pistol course got me hooked, the rifle course really got me hooked. I will tell you, I was intimidated beyond belief walking in there, knowing nothing and feeling like everybody else in that course was a master shooter, and I was walking in there and I was gonna make a fool of myself. And that didn't happen. Everybody else was learning just as I was. So I say that just in case there's somebody out there watching this that feels intimidated to get involved, sign up for a course thinking, oh, everybody else there will know what they're doing. And it's just not the case. There's gonna be people that do and people that don't. And you're probably gonna be somewhere in the middle. That's usually been my experience. Anyway, this Wilson Combat Protector rifle, this thing was awesome. I haven't shot it in a long time, but when I took the course, this thing ran like a sewing machine, never had a single malfunction, and it's a really nice little rifle. Kind of lightweight because the handguard's cut off back here, and I typically don't buy guns like this anymore with the shorter handguard and that long of a barrel. If the handguard ends here, the barrel's got to end here too now. But anyhow, at the time, this was a very cool gun. I took that Fieldcraft survival course, and then the next rifle course I took was from Tactical Response. That was fighting rifle, and that was a 2-day course down in Arizona. Really cool, and what I like about it most thinking back on it is it was instructed by James Yeager, who used to be very prominent on YouTube, and he is no longer with us. Rest in peace, James Yeager. But he was an outsized personality, and it was a very fun course. And talking about being intimidated, walking into there, I felt definitely intimidated, not as much as the first one, but this was rifle and pistol and more advanced. And I once again felt like I'm gonna make a fool of myself, but didn't end up being the case. Met some really cool guys. One of them in particular, Brandon, if you're watching, what's up, my brother? I say that just because you meet really cool guys in these courses. And Brandon, who I met there, who lives in Arizona, was already signed up for the next course I took. And he told me about it. I ended up signing up, and we took that course together. That one was in southern Utah in a town called Teasdale, Utah. And that was a Buck Doyle scoped carbine class. And that one was freezing cold. That was crazy. That was kind of intermediate distance, 100 yards to 600 yards. And you're in the snow the first day, the coldest day, just crazy winds. And you spent almost the whole day laying down in prone position and just freezing to death. But got through it. It was one of the cooler courses I've ever taken. I definitely need to sign up for another Buck Doyle class. But the gun that I took to that course was this Geisley Super Duty in OD green. And this gun is freaking sweet. So this thing did super well at that course. And let me go through how I have it set up. This is the same configuration that I had it in the course. I didn't put a can on this because I didn't have a can at the time. I do have a Surefire closed time warrant comp on the front, and then a Modlite PLHV2 18350 with a Surefire SR07 pressure pad. And then I have this Night Force Attacker 1-8 and an offset RMR in a Valhalla Tactical Ruck. And this thing I really like. You can adjust it all the way, any degree you'd like. And it is in a JP Industries scope mount. And other than that, I think it is bone stock. And this gun, 16-inch barrel, this performed flawlessly. It was a very good gun for the course. Haven't shot this one in a while either. Making these videos, I'm always reminded I need to go shoot this gun. And we should do that very soon. This Geisley Super Duty was an awesome gun for that course, and I just have very good memories, and it was a very good training. That one had everything, all distances, all positions. you're moving, shooting off barricades, shooting in prone, cold weather, warmed up the last day, and it was actually tolerable. And so shooting in horrible conditions in all different positions, just absolutely across the gamut, one of the coolest courses I've taken. So that was the Buck Doyle follow through consulting scoped carbine that I took with the Geisley Super Duty. After that course, still I've been buying guns along the way, and some of them stuck out, some of them didn't, but I was very into agency at the time. I had a very big agency portion of my gun collecting, where anything agency I was just obsessed with. So the next course I took was a Modern Samurai red dot course with Scott Jedlinski, and that course is awesome for teaching red dots. Had a great time, and the gun that I used was this Agency Gen 5 Glock 17 in black multicam. This thing was awesome. It still is. I love all my agency guns. If you haven't seen my agency video, it's one of the first videos I released, but they just do such a good job aesthetically. Now, it's not like they're no longer a Glock. It's still a Glock with a better trigger, better barrel, but it sure looks cool. I'll say that. So I've got an RMR and a Surefire X300 Turbo on this, and I took this to that course and I shot okay, not great. I had some frustrating parts and some good parts, but I was shooting this Glock, and that is really where I saw people shooting staccatos for the first time. And the guys with the staccatos or double stack 1911s, they were killing it. And part of that's the gun, part of that's the shooter, but these guns were running so fast and they were killing it. I think they had an XC, and somebody else had kind of a custom double stack 1911, and they were just sewing machines with those guns. And I had purchased a Staccato P that I had at home, and I just didn't think of it as a gun that you'd take to a course like that at the time. For whatever reason, my lack of knowledge about the platform, pretty much. And saw these guys running them, because in my mind, the Staccato was a very nice gun that I didn't want to go and just beat up. It was a nice piece for the collection that I would keep nice and rub with a diaper and all that crap. But once I saw these guys running them, it got my mind changed, and I went home and got it out and really was like, okay, I'm going to start getting into the Staccato. And that was this Staccato P. Doesn't look anything like it did at the time. It was just still all black DLC coated. Now it's been to Monsoon Tactical, got the chunk port. This was the very first gun I ever sent to Monsoon. That course got me to get this gun out of the safe and actually start shooting this. Now, there was a learning curve. It's not like I took this out and all of a sudden my shooting just went up by leaps and bounds. I had to get used to it. Part of the problem was trying to find a holster for this gun. At the time, they were few and far between, but did get me to get this thing out, but I still wasn't all that confident with it. So I did say I was still into agency guns, and I didn't feel like I shot that Glock 17 that great. So I started shooting this agency P320. Now, I will say that I shoot this P320 better than I shoot the agency, that Glock 17. This thing has probably, thousands of rounds through it. I shot the hell out of this gun, and I shot this gun well. So I really, really like this gun. This thing has a very significant place on my timeline. I use this probably the most of almost any other handgun, and shot it just almost exclusively. And then I went to take another course, another red dot course from Aaron Cowan in Sage Dynamics, and that was here in Utah. And I brought this agency P320 and this Staccato, and I ran this for like the first portion of the class, and then I ran the Staccato for the second portion of the class. And it was that course where made the transition to Staccato. And now, once again, it wasn't like I was shooting that agency P320 and then I took this out and all of a sudden, just grouping them like, it wasn't this big factor of I shot so much better. And there was actually a learning curve of, like, the manual of arms is different on this than it is with the P320. This takes a little more getting used to for me, but I shot better, and particularly at like 25 yards and beyond. This thing, I was more accurate and just definitely making better shots with this gun. So this is where the 2011 seed got planted. And then the next purchase I made in the 2011 world was the Staccato XC. And this is the gun that baptized me into being a 2011 nut, right? So it was just that slide alone. But this one too has been altered from at the time. I did just show this in the Vulcan Machine Works video, but this is at the time it was just a bone stock XC, and that buttery, crazy easy slide was one of those things that's like, whoa, there's something different with this gun. And then a 5-inch barrel being compensated, the way this thing shot, it set the 2011 hook. And I would trace everything really back to this gun. The combination of this Staccato P and this Staccato XC. That was really what hooked me, and 2011s have been kind of the main focus of the channel for the most part, because that's currently my obsession, is the 2011 platform, double stack 1911 platform. And that's kind of how I ended up there. So that is kind of my pistol journey, and it still continues. We'll see if there's anything that I morph into from the 2011s, but that's mainly my focus right now and what I shoot most of the time. But when it goes back to rifles and AR pistols, there was a couple guns that got me absolutely hooked. And the first of those was the Q Honey Badger. Now this thing was the holy grail of guns for me at the time. And let's go through how I have it set up. I didn't have it suppressed, obviously, when I bought it, but this is a Q Trash Panda. And then I have a Modlite PL-HV2 18350 that I'm operating with the Surefire SR07 pressure pad. I have a little Arisaka index right here. And then an EOTech XPS2, that is the 300 blackout version. And when I got this gun, I'm just obsessed, right? There's that time where it's like, that is the gun, the coolest gun that's ever been made. And I've just absolutely loved it. But especially once I got the can, it was so cool. Led me to getting the SD on the wall back there, the Sugar Weasel, and kind of got me even into the Noveske Ghetto Blasters. This thing just kind of set the tone for the higher end little AR pistols, SBRs, things like that. And I liked that size, but that's 300 blackout. And so I wanted to get into the 5.56 AR pistol world. The gun that sold me on the shorter configuration AR-15, without a doubt, when I got the 10.3-inch Daniel Defense Mark 18, things changed. I went from all of the 16-inch guns, and then I'd moved down to like 14.5 pin and welded, 13.7 pin and welded, that being the shortest configuration rifle you could have. And then I got the Mark 18 AR pistol with the SB Tactical SBA3 pistol brace, and realized that, oh man, this is my speed. I like these guns. So once again, this has changed, but the only change I really made was this originally came with the RIS-2 quad rail, and this is Daniel Defense RIS-3 rail. So I put that new rail on it and just lightened it up a little, because this is a heavy gun, but it is a very cool gun. This one left another mark along the road that was significant and kind of changed my perception and my preference on rifles. So I got this, and let's go through how I have it set up. So this is the Surefire SOCOM Mini 556 suppressor. I have a Modlite PLHV2 18350 that I'm operating with the Axon button. These Axon buttons are sweet. Emissary development handbrake. I really like these. And then EOTech EXPS3 on a Unity fast riser with the EOTech G33 and the Unity flip to center mount and a bad lever. Other than that, everything else is stock. It did come with the Law Tactical folding brace. So that was part of just how this package can be so small and type of shooting that I do most often. This little 10.3 inch barrel is awesome. I love it. So this is kind of the one that left the mark of the demarcation from the longer rifles down to the pistols. And then I started buying, building, obsessing about the AR pistol. And I built so freaking many ARs. A lot of the ARs that you see back here and most of the ARs that fill my safes were builds that I did. And I just got absolutely obsessed. When I did my first AR build, going through and seeing how that gun worked and the genius behind it with detents and springs, and just, it blew me away. And I really was absolutely enthralled by it. And building ARs is like meditation for me. I love to go out and just turn on some music and build. And that's one of the things that I love, although I haven't done as much of it lately, partly because I'm focused more on content for the channel. But then it's like I've run out of space. I just don't have the space to put more guns. So now I just really tinker and swap stuff around and try to make things even better, because you can only shoot one gun at a time anyway. So this is the gun that got me into the short guns. And then from there, being in the short configuration, the next course that I took was a CQB course from Lead Faucet Tactical, and that was using simunition, and that was one of the more fun courses I've taken. But I did take this gun, which also has changed, but the only thing that's changed is a lower on it. This is now an M16 lower, so it is a full auto. You can see that it's got the fun switch that goes all the way around, but before that, this was a Type A Pro. And it was a 10.5. I put an 11-inch barrel on it. And this is a machine gun, so it's not an SBR. It just is a machine gun. That trumps everything. And let me take you through how I have this set up. I have shown it on the channel before. But I do have the Huxworks Flow 556K, Modlite PLHV2 18350 that I keep. This is also my night vision gun, or one of my night vision guns, so I keep this 100 Concepts light cover so I don't have a negligent white light discharge. And then I'm operating that and the laser with this Unity TNVC taps mount, so you can run the white light or the laser. And the laser on this is the Wilcox Raid X with an Aimpoint Comp M5 red dot in this GBRS group Hydra mount. I really like this Hydra mount for night vision. It's such a good option. And then a Troy vertical grip. This is an Emissary Development pistol grip on here. It's very comfortable. I like that a lot. An HRF Concept magwell, the Radian Raptor charging handle, B5 buttstock with an irregular defense cheek riser. And I think that is about it, but I've taken multiple courses with this. The first one being that CQB course. Then I took a Steve Fisher Sentinel Concepts rifle course with this, and it is done very good. I like this gun a lot. But then once it became a machine gun, that is an obvious point along the road for me. Absolutely loving it, but I don't shoot it in full auto all that much. There's not a whole lot of reason to do so. I shoot it semi-auto 95% of the time, but every once in a while you gotta let loose. And this is my favorite. This is my go-to. This is my baby. And this is the Colt / Type A M16. those are kind of the pivotal guns on my journey. And like I said, they're probably not the ones that you would think they're going to be, but for some reason, those are the ones that just seared into my memory as being pivotal moments. And I don't even know exactly why. They just had some emotional component to that time of just this was significant for me, and I remember them. And a lot of them are because I took courses with them, and those are very easy places to bookmarks along these chapters. But of course, there's so many guns that I remember having some significance that this would be such a long video. So I did have to whittle it down to like, what are the most prominent memories? And I'm probably missing a couple, but those are really the ones that jump out at me. As I was sitting on the couch thinking about it, kind of writing a list from my memory, those are the ones that jump out. And recently, everything has just been kind of 2011 centric. All of my gun purchases, for the most part, have been centered around 2011s. And that is what I'm into right now. I'm really digging it. Maybe there'll be an evolution along the way to the next thing. We'll see. That's one of the things I love about guns is you never know where this rabbit hole is gonna lead. There's always that next turn. The one thing I've always really wanted to do is to get into long distance. I've had some experience, but very little, and I want to get a lot more. That looks very fun, but we'll see if that's the next chapter after the 2011s. But anyway, that's kind of the journey of how I got here. Ended up with a YouTube channel. I figured I had been collecting all these guns, loved them, and I wanted to share them with you guys because I know I love watching YouTube channels with gun collections and shooting. I've never quite had a passion for anything like I have for guns. And I'm just so into it, and I love sharing it with you guys and connecting with you in the comments. It's been an absolute riot. We're gonna keep this thing going full steam. So stay tuned. SHOT Show should be very interesting. We're gonna hopefully bring some really cool content from there. And I'm excited to go. So please stay tuned for videos coming out over the next week. Also, please comment, like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. I'm Jeff for the Weapon Collective, reminding you, keep your weapons collected and keep collecting your weapons. I'll catch you next time.